You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Combined, the teams were 48 for 95, a record for made threes. The Lakers won the late game over Memphis, 116-110, 40 points for Anthony Davis.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for The Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show. It's a brand new week. This is Monday, December 16, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld, as always, doing a great job manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. That number is 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. We're with you in the next couple of hours. Back. Hey, a little rocky start to the morning, but it's all good. I'm back here ready to rock and roll on the Gary Harris Show. Thank you, Chase, for getting me plugged back in. And so I'll just pick back up from the top because I don't know where we lost the signal at, but this is the Gary Harris Show, and we are ready to go for a brand new week here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. And I'll run down the lineup for you and get you set for the show in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you, as always, this hour, the Gary Harris Show, being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit, it really is just a better way of banking. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Find out more at alabamacu.com or get by and see them at one of their many locations around the great state of Alabama. Alabama Credit Union. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put extra change in your pocket. All right, if you want to get involved in the program, you know the number. It's the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. We'd love to get you on the program this morning to talk some sports. Another great sports weekend is in the rearview mirror, highlighted here, of course, by Alabama basketball taking on a really good Creighton team at Coleman Coliseum on Saturday night. I was there for the game, and it was a good one. Alabama, I thought was going to blow Creighton out. It looked like that in the first half. It was a 17-point game with under 9 minutes to play in the first half, and Alabama was really controlling every aspect of the game. They were on the backboard, had a big rebounding edge at that point in the game, was doing a good job with post defense, was not lighting it up from three, but we're getting a lot of transition baskets and built a nice lead in the game. But Creighton fought back as good teams do, and by halftime it was a 6-point game. Then in the second half, Alabama would spurt out to 10, 12, but never could run away and hide from Creighton. But wound up winning the game 83-75. Mark Sears, 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I thought it was his best overall game of the season. And he looked like an All-American in that game, and needed to, because like I said, Creighton gave Alabama all they wanted, but the Tide moves to 8-2 on the season, and a really nice win over a team that beat them last year and had already beaten Kansas this year. We're going to hear from Nate Oates later on in the program, his post-game press conference for that basketball game, talking about the Crimson Tide. But a quality win on Saturday night. Then yesterday, the women followed that up with a win at home, as Alabama women have only lost one game this season, and that was in that SEC ACC challenge when they lost to Cal out in Berkeley by 4 points. But this is a as I said with Christy Curry when we had her on Friday, this is a team that I think not only is looking to get in the NCAA tournament, but looking to make some noise when they get there. They beat Murray State yesterday after a sluggish first half, turned it on in the second half, and won going away 90-63. And was a good Sunday afternoon of basketball at Coleman Coliseum for the women, and a good Saturday night of basketball for Coleman Coliseum for the men. In the Army-Navy game, I was surprised by this. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought Army was a better team than Navy, and but in rivalry games, and Navy's a good team. Now, don't get me wrong; they're a good team this year too. But I thought Army was better. But you wouldn't know it by the outcome on Saturday, because Navy put it to Army and won the game handily, 31-13 in the 125th matchup between the two service academies. So big win for Navy, and they lead the all-time series over the Black Knights 62-54. And Bama in the NFL, always exciting, and was again yesterday. If you go to my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page, and I encourage you to go there and follow me, please. I list a recap every Sunday night of all the Bama in the NFL stats from that Sunday. Leading the way, Jalen Hurts, 25 of 32 for 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Ran 15 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. Played great as the Eagles took care of the Steelers, 27-13. Also in that game, Devontae Smith, 11 catches, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown for the Eagles. Some other top performances on the day. Josh Jacobs, a really nice game for the Packers over the Seahawks, 26 carries, 94 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches, 42 yards in that game. In the Lions game against the Bills, won by the Bills, but Brian Branch had 15 tackles. That's a career high for him. I'm just running down some of these guys. For the Commanders, Brian Robinson, 21 rushes, 65 yards, 3 catches, 22 yards. For the Ravens, Derrick Henry, 14 rushes, 67 yards. You can go on and on. Henry To'oTo'o for the Texans, 11 tackles, a half a sack, forced fumble. Will Anderson, 3 tackles, tackle for loss, a sack, 2 quarterback hurries, and a forced fumble. It's just business as usual when you're talking about Bama in the NFL. It's always fun. All right, we got the phone line starting to back up, so we're going to go ahead and start getting some callers. Corey, we're going to get to you. We're going to get to Tom, but as always, it seems like Jim leads us off this morning. Hey, good morning, Jim.
Hey, Army, I guess, was the 6th highest rated conference champion, which it doesn't get an automatic bid.
Right.
But if, say, Clemson is the 5th, and they did, say Clemson was number 11 in the ranking, and Army number 12, and then Army loses, what happens? The Navy. I mean, do they just game don't count? They still keep their number 12 since the ranking's already.
No, I can't. I all I can tell you is, I don't know about the wouldas, couldas, and shouldas. Neither one of these teams was in the playoffs. That's all I can tell you. And they weren't going to be in regardless of what happened in this game. So, I know you like to look at a lot of possibilities, but in this case, the playoff was set last weekend. I have thought about the fact that they play that game a week after the playoff bids go out, but neither one of them were in. That's all I know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I have, because like I say, you never know. It's just I'd like to know the rules before it happens.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll adjust that going forward with the date of this game for the possibility that one of these teams could get in. But you're right; they played the game a week after the college football playoffs go out. So, it wouldn't matter what happened yesterday. Neither one of these teams were in. But I don't know if there's a woulda, shoulda that could be put in place for this game. Like I said, I'm sure that's something that they've looked at. So I don't know. I mean, if let's say Army had qualified and gotten an offer and been in the playoff, then I guess it wouldn't matter what happened yesterday. Even if they lost, they would still be in. So,
hey, with all the transfers now and all, there's always arguments about the best rivalries and all. Well, I guess the quarterback that's transferring to Auburn has already experienced the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry.
Yes.
Well, now he'll get a first hand at Auburn, Alabama. And then, of course, Khalid Downs, knows what Auburn, Alabama is. Now he's experienced Michigan, Ohio State. So I'm just like, their opinions, hear their opinions, what do they think, as far as the comparing.
Yeah, well, you'll start to see those stories. The more and more that these guys, they'll be asked. I'm sure Jackson Arnold will be asked, after he plays in the Iron Bowl, how did he compare to Texas, Oklahoma, and I'm sure that Caleb Downs was probably asked that after the game with Michigan. And you're going to have some of these players, because of the way that's going, that are going to play in 3 or 4 big rivalries, because you got guys now playing for so many teams I can't even keep up with it. So anyway, it's just the new world that we're in.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. 9:13 here on the Gary Harris Show. And let's go ahead and get to Tom before we hit the break. Corey, we'll get to you in the next segment. Hey, good morning, Tom.
Gary, good morning. How are you?
Doing well.
I thought the basketball team performed very well down the stretch Saturday night. And I was talking to Barry and Coach Sanderson this morning. McDermott, he is one fine basketball coach.
He really is. I mean, he really, really is. Yeah. And his son was a really good player and played in the NBA. But yeah, he's an excellent coach. One of the best.
I agree. And but the thing about it is, we were wearing their rear end out that first half, like you said.
Yep.
To me, I love it when to observe. You got a coach, you got the players over there. You can see them trying to come up with something that will stop the bleed and turn the tide for them, and they were able to do it. And I always admire coaches and players that can do that. They figure out, hey, this is what's kicking our rear end. We got to stop it and then figure out a way to do it. And then somebody pointed out, it wasn't me, but somebody pointed out the strategy that he came out with to stop that big run before the first half was over was, hey, look, go put your heels on that 3-point line. We can't get beat from there. And they did it. By God, it worked. And so my hat's off to him. And also, I wanted to point out, I know you got some comments on this, and I want to hear them. I thought Coach Curry in the ladies' basketball game yesterday did a phenomenal coaching job, because that Murray State coming in there, they're a high-powered scoring machine. And that coaching staff put together and the players carried it out, but they put together a plan for defense, and they played their rear ends off at the end of the first quarter on into the rest of the game. They played their rear ends off, and whatever adjustments they made or what was said over there was fantastic. Don't you think?
Yeah, she got their attention at halftime. There's no doubt about it. And they came out in that second half and looked, every bit the part of a top 15 type team. And I think they are. I think Alabama's a top 15 caliber team. I know they lost out at Cal, but as we heard from Coach Curry on Friday when she was on my show, they had some illness. They had the player out. They weren't full speed for that game. It happens way out there on the West Coast. But yesterday, very sluggish in the first half. Didn't look like what we expected to see. And at halftime, yes, she made the right call in terms of the adjustments and in terms of getting their attention. And they came out in that second half and dominated the game. That's a really good team. Alabama, as I said, I think is a top 15 caliber team in the country. And I think they'll stack up well in the SEC, which, just like on the men's side, is a juggernaut of a conference. So you could be good and finish, 8th or 9th in the league and still be a really, really good team. But I think they got a chance to get in the NCAA tournament and win a couple games. I do.
Oh, I do too. They look like a tournament team to me on my limited vision. But anyway, I'll let Corey get on. I just wanted to bring those two things up to you. I thought it was outstanding on both parties' part.
Thank you, Tom. Good call, as always. One note on Alabama and Creighton, too. I mean, Kalkbrenner is such a great player, and he had 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. But Stephen Ashworth, their guard, he just plays every minute in the game. I mean, if you watch little number one out there, he plays every minute in the game. I think he played all 40 minutes or close, and he does that pretty much every game for them. And he is a good player. He is tough. He is hard-nosed. He had 20 points and 9 assists in the game. He can kind of get under your skin. He's one of those type guys. But Tom's right. Creighton is a really good team. All right, we're going to get to the timeout. Corey, you hold, because we're going to have plenty of time for you in the next segment. We got Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com coming up at 9:30. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30 with news on the Ryder Cup participants getting paid for the first time. Money, 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 money. And it just seems like you can't do anything in sports now without getting paid. We'll discuss that. We'll take more of your phone calls. As I said, Corey, you're up on the other side. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. You might want to take a quick trip across the state line to Mississippi before tomorrow night. The Mega Million Lottery jackpot found no winner on Saturday night, so it's up to $740 million. The cash payout option, $345 million. Lottery ticket sellers in Mississippi expecting a large number of Alabamians to buy tickets today. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. It's free throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday.
I'll still be making the plays. You'll be making the bets. And finally getting the sports glory you deserve. The Sportsbook at Golden Moon Casino. Play the game.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages.
Every game, all season, right here on your home for Alabama basketball. The Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather unseasonably mild today, occasionally cloudy through tonight. Maybe a shower in spots tonight. The high today 69, the low tonight 56. Tomorrow mostly cloudy and mild, a chance of showers, the high close to 70. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 57 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
(9:22). The countdown to Christmas is on. Just 9 days away. And boy, it's coming fast. All right, let's jump back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and talk to our pal Corey. Hey, Corey, good morning.
Good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
Doing well.
I know it's a little ways away, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Alabama softball this season. I know it was somewhat of a disappointing end in the World Series, but I still think this team is good. We know we got Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC, but I just want to get your early thoughts on what you think the possibilities for this team could be.
Yeah, I need to dive in a little bit, Corey. To be perfectly candid with you, I have not really looked that closely at softball yet, and I'm going to need to do that because it'll be here before you know it. Now that we're once we turn the calendar over the new year, that's when I really start looking at baseball, softball, the spring sports. But just off the top of my head, I agree with what you said. I think it's a good team, and even though the disappointing performance at the Women's College World Series, it doesn't change the fact that they got there, and that was a real accomplishment for a team that last year, for the most part during the season, was not a great team, and really capped off the season and put them in Oklahoma City. My first thoughts are with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, that it only gets tougher. I mean, you're talking about two top programs, including the best program in the country. That's not even up for debate. What Oklahoma's doing right now in softball is, it's a dynasty. It's a full-fledged dynasty now, and there's no way around that. So for Alabama, where do they fit in the league? Like I said, Corey, I have not put much thought in it yet. I think that they're going to be competitive. Not having, as I said, paid much attention yet to what their roster looks like. I would think right now they're probably have a chance to be a top 5 or 6 team in the league. Would you agree with that?
My thing is, where's the offense come from?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really given it a deep dive, but would you agree that they have a chance to be a top 5 or 6 team in the league, or do you think they're outside of that? I don't see them as one of the top. I don't see them as a top 2 or 3 team in the league. I can tell you that, but I see them as maybe a top 5 or 6 team. What about you?
Yeah, because like I said, the past 3 to 4 years, the offense has been the problem, and you can't just win games 2-1 or 3-2. You have to score runs in this day and age, and the offense has been the problem. And you have to, if you can't score, you can't win, and it's just been so frustrating seeing Alabama lack offense. And if we can change that around, we can win more games than we're capable of. But I just hope that this year we can be more offensively productive.
Yeah, I hear you, and I do too. And again, I know that they've added some players, and I think, as I said, not having really looked at it that deeply or talked to Coach Murphy, I just, I feel like they will be better offensively. I do. I think they'll have a little more pop in the lineup, and obviously the player coming in from Northern Iowa should help. And so I think they'll be better on offense. I think, like, I'm with you. I think they're going to be a good team. I have a hard time trying to, until I study it more and look at the league more, to kind of figure out where they fit in. But I think they're going to be, in the top handful of teams in the conference. I mean, clearly Oklahoma's the favorite. I mean, there's no, as I said, there's no kind of baby stepping around it. I mean, Oklahoma is the most dominant program right now in college sports. To me, the Oklahoma softball team is. And, this is up there with what UConn women did in basketball there for a while, what Nick Saban did in football at Alabama, what we've seen some other teams do in sports. I mean, they are a absolute juggernaut. So that's where it starts for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they won't run roughshod over the league, but I clearly see them winning it, just maybe not as easily as they did in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be tested, but yeah, they'll be the pick to win it. I mean, if you picked anybody else at this point, you would either be doing it just to try to stir something up, or you would see something that not many people see, because Oklahoma looks like a dominant number 1 in the league going in. But yeah, I'm ready for it. Like I said, once we get through the holidays and we turn the calendar over to January, I'll start paying much more attention to it. What did you think of the basketball team's win on Saturday night?
I liked it. We never had beat Creighton until Saturday, and it was a good win and a good quad 1 win we need for the resume. And we got 3 more non-conference games, and then conference play starts, and got a good Oklahoma team coming up for start conference play, which will be very tough. But you got North Dakota, Kent State, and then South Dakota State, which will be interesting to wrap up our conference play, which we should go 3-0 in those games. And then once conference play starts, then the real test starts, and this is where you make your money going into the NCAA tournament. And I think the league is strong again, starting with Tennessee, Auburn, and then us. I think if we can stay in the top 3 to 4 and get that first round bye in the SEC tournament, we should have a really good high seed going into Selection Sunday.
Sounds good, Corey. I like your thinking. So, all right, my friend, I got to get to the break, but thanks a lot, buddy.
Good talking to you, Gary. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Corey. 9:28. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com next here on the Gary Harris Show.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
You didn't miss the other sales. You were just waiting for the right one. The Great Procrastinators Sale. Fincher and Osmond, McFarland between Edgar's and local routes.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour.
For 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com. Code 5555 to save 15% today.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
All right, 9:32, 28 minutes in front of the hour, 10 o'clock, and it's time to talk with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV. Remember, for the best Alabama coverage, it's TiderInsider.com. Good morning, Rodney. How's it going?
How are you, Gary?
Doing well. Let's dive right in. I want to start with football, and I want to kind of a lot of different topics that I want to hit on with you. Let's start with just the reality of where we're at. I think last week when I visited you on Monday morning, we were still processing the fact that Alabama didn't make the playoff. But now we've had time. We've had a press conference already down in Tampa last week with Jerome Moore and Kalen DeBoer. So it's real. Alabama's going to play in a bowl game on New Year's Eve, the ReliaQuest Bowl against Michigan, in a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal. And for Alabama, this is a big game. It's a chance to win 10 games. It's the chance to beat another true blue blood in college football, get a little payback. So I think now you get over the disappointment and you start getting ready to play this game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the next step. I mean, you've got a lot here on the line in terms of just kind of the way this team finishes. I think Jalen Milroe put it that way. And, you know, I think it's really important that a lot of these guys that have been leaders on this team have kind of, you know, set themselves on playing in this game and, you know, finishing out the season on a strong note. Again, you win 10 games. It's a great season. I know it's not what Alabama fans hoped for, expected. You certainly wanted to get into the playoffs, but, you know, still a 10-win season is really important. It kind of keeps that string going. It's been going on since, 2008. So really important. And don't forget, you know, Gary, 2010 was a really disappointing season from the standpoint of Alabama was coming off a national championship. It might have been Nick Saban's most talented team. You know, they hit a lot of dips in the road. They finished, 10-3 that year. Lost some games that they could have probably and should have probably won, but they finished strong. They finished really strong in that game. You know, you had a lot of veteran players, Mark Ingram, Julio Jones, guys that played in that game that helped Alabama win, destroy Michigan State, and it kind of set the tone for the next couple of years. This is maybe a game, and again, I understand totally different circumstances, but this is kind of a game that can set the tone for next year or leading into spring practice and then into next year.
So as you get ready to play in this bowl game and you get ready to try to win 10 games and you get ready to try to build that momentum for the offseason, you have to look at your roster. Now, Coach DeBoer has said that he expects all the players that are here to play in the game. Milroe's already said he's playing. Jahai Campbell said he's playing. Tyler Booker said he's playing. So, you know, we're expecting the core of the team. But the transfer portal has already, you know, hit Alabama, and it's fairly active with former Alabama players. Is it your expectation, Ronnie, that if you're going into the portal that you won't be playing in the game. Is that the way that you understand it?
That would be my expectation. I mean, I think it would be rare that a kid goes into the portal and sticks with the team practices. I mean, really, right. I guess if you look at it from the coach's perspective, why would you want to spend time preparing a player to play? Again, I understand he's been part of this team, but if he's quit on you, I mean, I think it's time to move on to the next guy.
Let's talk about who all has gone into the portal. It's been pretty active. And, I mean, obviously Justin Haynes, one of your top running backs, now Devontae Smith, who started a lot in the secondary this year. There have been others. Just your reaction and any surprises and you know, or is this kind of what you expected to see after the season with the amount of players that are going into the portal?
No, I think it's about pretty much what I expected. I kind of, there's probably two guys that, you know, just me, I would certainly love to have kept Devontae Smith because of his experience. You know, I think there's some other good players there that, you know, they're going to have options at that position, whether it's Deshaun Jones or Red Morgan or whoever they decide to play there, you know, in this game. And then as you move forward, they're going to have, you know, options, and they'll possibly find someone in the portal that could, you know, help in the secondary. But, you know, the other guy I'd really mention is, maybe it's not been mentioned as much since he's come out that he's leaving, is Dylan Lonergan, the quarterback. I mean, I think you always want to have guys at that position that are willing to compete. You know, I think with perhaps what we think is going to happen with Milroe leaving, I think, you know, you need that competition, and I think he certainly was capable of winning the job. I really do. And so I wish he would have stuck it out maybe through spring practice and kind of given it a little bit more, but I certainly understand, you know, that decision. So I think those are the two guys that just kind of, I would say I would like to have seen them kind of stick around.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, when you look at some of the players that have gone in the portal, Alabama fans I know out on TiderInsider.com are like, well, why aren't we getting players from the portal? As you pointed out to me yesterday when we were texting, it's still very, very early in the process, but I know that, you know, Alabama fans, of course, see Jackson Arnold, the quarterback, going to Auburn, and then they got the offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, and you see Ole Miss with a lot of portal action. Any concerns that you have, the fact that Alabama has not received a portal commitment yet?
Not really. I mean, like in our update last night, we ran through several of the top programs in the SEC. Alabama has none. Georgia has none. Tennessee has none. Off the top of my head, I think Florida has one, and that's a punter. Texas has two, and one of those is a punter. Texas A&M has a couple. So I'm not really, not really concerned at all. I think that, you know, again, they're going to continue to evaluate. And listen, more guys are going to come in the portal most likely between now and the 28th. And then even after the 28th, teams that are playing in bowl games, they have players that want to stick it out the rest of the year. And then the teams that are in the playoffs, they have a 5-day grace period from the end of their last game to make decisions to get into the portal. So I think there's going to be more opportunities that Alabama's going to have to choose from guys that they need. And I think, you know, again, I think Alabama's got a lot of players that are going to be back, you know, with the scholarship numbers are going to be, and I say tight, I think they'd certainly make room for who they felt like they really needed. But, you know, I just think that sometimes fans get a little bit antsy and they see other teams grabbing players, but, you know, not every team's situation is exactly the same. So I think the best thing is kind of see how it plays out over the next several weeks.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, you've got a full update at TiderInsider.com right there on the front page, the portal comings and goings. I will ask you about some specific players that Alabama is involved with. One of them being, of course, the wide receiver from NC State, Kevin Concepcion, who was in over the weekend. What's the latest on him?
You know, I posted on Tider Insider 2 days before he came in that, you know, I'd spoken to someone who said, you know, Alabama's in a great position with him in terms of, I think he really, you know, heading into this visit was had Alabama certainly is one of his top schools. I know he's visited, I think, a couple other schools, maybe Texas A&M. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. Yeah, I think he did go to Texas A&M already. But that he certainly had Alabama right there. And I think his visit went extremely well. I mean, again, I think Alabama will continue to evaluate, their needs and who they want out of this portal. I don't think there's any rush necessarily to take a guy. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. I know he did say he wants to have his decision made by the 23rd of this month. So, we'll see how that plays out. And for people that don't know, he was ACC Freshman of the Year 2 years ago. He caught 71 passes as a freshman. He's caught 124 passes in his 2 years there for over 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. He's not really a big guy, 5'11", 185, but he's been extremely productive. And Gary, his freshman year, I think he was the only player in the FBS that had over 750 yards receiving and over 250 yards rushing that year.
A player that I would love to see Alabama sign is Kelby Collins, who originally came out of Gardendale High School a couple years ago. Alabama recruited him, defensive lineman, had a terrific freshman season at Florida, fell off a little bit this year, but still 6'4", 286. What update do you have on him?
I've always thought that since he hit the portal that Alabama would be the natural fit. I mean, he's from Gardendale. I think he grew up following Alabama. My understanding, if I recall back to the recruiting process, was his dad even was an Alabama fan. So I think there's always been something about Alabama for him. Of course, he chose Florida at the time, and now this past season he only had 6 tackles, Gary. He had 23 the year before, so he's got 29 in 2 years there at Florida. But he's a guy that's got a lot of potential. Again, he's got the size and all of those things. He has a relationship with this Alabama staff. I know that, Freddie Roach had recruited him, when he was coming out of high school. So, I think that's one guy that Alabama needs defensive linemen, in my opinion. You always need defensive linemen. I hear people say, well, defensive line's not really a priority this year. They got guys coming back. The way your roster's changing constantly, the way guys come and go, whether it's go to the NFL, whether it's at the portal. I mean, you always have to have defensive linemen and offensive linemen too, for that matter. So with that said, I think when you can get a guy with his size and his potential, certainly I think he should be a priority for you.
One player that visited Alabama was the tight end Luke Hass from Arkansas. I know you really high on him as a player, and he wound up committing to Ole Miss. You put in your report that Alabama was never the favorite, but at the same time, certainly they coveted this very athletic tight end.
That is a great player. I think he's a great player. I watched him, when he came in as a freshman. He almost went to Alabama out of high school from Bixby, Oklahoma. So I certainly watched him in his first couple of years at Arkansas. I know he battled some injuries, but he's a guy as a receiver, 6'3", 240. He's athletic. He catches the ball extremely well. I think he's a great player. That was a big pickup for Ole Miss again. But here's the thing, too. There's always kind of a story sometimes behind some of these decisions. There's a player that signed with Ole Miss last year that had transferred from Arkansas that has been recruiting these guys to Ole Miss for quite a while now. So, and he got a teammate, that an offensive lineman that just committed to Ole Miss. So I think, certainly some of these things can contribute to these decisions.
Alabama is in the market for a tight end. One to watch might be Cody Hardy from Elon. Now, I know you say Elon, but this guy is huge. He is 6'5", 271 pounds, and he's got a lot of schools that are recruiting him. What can you tell us about Cody Hardy?
Yeah, he actually visited Auburn over the weekend. And he's a guy, like you said, you gave his size, but it's, Alabama, Cincinnati, Mississippi State, Louisville, LSU, Oklahoma State, and again, I think, you have to look at the difference between, him. He's 6'5", 271. He's not the same kind of as Luke Hass. He's different. This guy's a physical presence on the offensive line. He's a guy, a big, strong, physical guy that can give you somebody, blocking and all those things. I think he only caught, Gary, it may have been 10 passes in his years at, his 3 years there at Elon, 10 passes for 63 yards and just 1 touchdown. But see, that's not really the role that he's expected to fill. again, you mentioned the size. So, we'll see what happens. He's supposed to come into town. I think he's coming in on this Wednesday, a couple of days from now. So we'll see what happens with him. And don't forget now, Mario Craver.
I was going to ask you about him next. Yeah. Wide receiver.
Clay Chalkville star is going to be in this weekend. He had 17 catches for 368 yards and 3 touchdowns at Mississippi State as a true freshman this year. I watched some of his tape there. He had a couple of really big plays against Georgia, against Texas. So he's a really competitive kid. He's not very big, 5'10", 170 or so, but he was really productive as a true freshman. He's got speed. Things that he can do that certainly I think could add to your receiver core. Now, I think he's visited Texas A&M. I know Texas A&M is involved there, some other schools as well. So we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, he was electric in high school at that with Jalen Mbakwe on that 6A state championship team last year. Clay Chalkville, really exciting playmaker there. Yeah, definitely one to watch. I thought Alabama should have recruited him harder out of high school, but we'll see what happens this time around. All right, I want to ask you about quarterback because with Lonergan going in the portal, good possibility Milroe moves on to the NFL. That would leave you with just 2 scholarship quarterbacks returning, in Simpson and Mack. Obviously, Keelan Russell is coming in from high school. Is there a possibility Alabama might take a quarterback out of the portal?
Well, here's the danger in that. I think you're seeing it at Auburn right now. They took Jackson Arnold, which I think they had to take a quarterback. I get that. But now their whole room is basically emptied out. So right now, and again, unless I'm wrong, they've got Jackson Arnold, and they're going to have a true freshman running quarterback, Deuce Knight, who is a project as a passer. He's a guy that certainly has tools as a passer, but he's probably not going to be ready to play next year, would be my opinion. So their quarterback room is pretty much emptied out. I had several that hit the portal. Alabama, if you bring in a quarterback, all of a sudden, does Ty Simpson stick around? Austin Mack, with Keelan Russell, that'd probably be something different for him. But, those guys that have been here, certainly may kind of look at that in a negative way. So with that said, my guess is, you got to have a lot of confidence in Ty. He's been around for a while. We know the tools that he has. He just hasn't had the opportunity to play much. And then, of course, Austin Mack is a guy that, Kalen DeBoer and his staff felt good enough about to want to bring him from Washington with him. We've seen some flashes from him when he's had opportunities to play. He's got a lot of potential. So, Gary, I would think right now you just look at it and say you got Ty Simpson, you got Austin Mack, you got Keelan Russell this spring. Let those guys play and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I like that strategy too. You mentioned, Rodney, the bowl game and the importance for Alabama for this year's team to finish it out the right way. But as you said, also to have momentum going into the offseason and the springboard. When you look at this second season for Kalen DeBoer, having missed the playoff in season number 1, even though this was a good team, there'll be an expectation that, even more so in 2025. Do you feel like, and there's always pressure on these coaches, so I want to make sure I phrase this correctly, but do you feel like that from this fan base, there'll be an expectation of, well, you better get in the playoff in 2025? Do you think that, and do you think that in that sense that this coaching staff will feel that pressure after not making it this year?
Well, I mean, I think, I was really hoping they would get in this year, obviously for a lot of reasons, but one kind of gets the fan base really on the same page with what's happening with this coaching staff. And, they narrowly missed out, as you know. So, but yeah, I think next year, I mean, again, the fans, Alabama fans, the expectation is, hey, we better be in it. And again, I think the one thing that we have to kind of keep in mind about this year too is it was a transition year. We've talked about that repeatedly. A lot of things can kind of go. You hit a lot of bumps in the road, right? And I think they hit some of those. But now that transition year is really over. So I think right now the focus should be on, let's get this roster. Let's get guys on this roster that we feel comfortable with how we want to build this, our program. In other words, their program the way they want it to be. Because, I mean, and again, I don't, this is not anything against Jalen Milroe, but I think it's pretty obvious that he's not the guy the kind of quarterback that they really want to run their offense. So they had to do some things that fit him. Now, you got to get a guy prepared to run your offense. And other players, receivers. I think you've got to get to, if you feel like there's a change that you need to make on your coaching staff or whatever, you've got to get your roster, you got to get your staff like you want it. Because it is true, Gary. I mean, and I'm a big Kalen DeBoer guy, but the fact is the clock starts ticking really now to put your stamp on this program. I heard Urban Meyer a couple of days ago say, it's unfortunate, but it's the truth, is when you're coaching one of these blue bloods, whether it's Alabama, Ohio State, whoever, Georgia now, whatever, that you don't get in the playoffs one year, you don't get in the playoffs the next year, the heat is really turned up. So, I mean, again, that's just kind of the nature of it.
Good information, Rodney. Real quickly before we wrap up the segment, basketball gets full focus now. Tide had a big win on Saturday night over Creighton to get to 8-2 on the season. This SEC is going to be loaded in men's basketball. But Alabama looks like it's got a Final Four caliber team again. What's the excitement level for basketball right now at TiderInsider.com?
At an all-time high. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really excited about this team. You talk about expectations. Yeah, some of their expectations already been shattered because I think they thought they were going undefeated. But, they're really excited about the talent on this team, the potential of this team. And, again, Gary, you're in a good place when people are complaining about how you win, right? So that's kind of the expectation. It's not about winning now. It's how you look when you win to these fans.
That's right. Rodney, terrific, man. Appreciate it. TiderInsider.com. I know that you welcome new folks to the board and to the forum every day, and it's pretty easy to sign up.
Yeah, TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year, and you can get instant access with your credit card. If you prefer, there is an address there to send a check, and that gives you all our premium information, but also our All Sports Forum. You mentioned the community there that we have, and a lot of exchange there. I mean, it's constant on TiderInsider.com.
All right, Rodney, thank you.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
All right, 9:53. We're going to come back and wrap up hour number one right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama-Creighton. We'll do that with Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Martin Houston. We'll talk to Barrett Sallee. We'll talk about the transfer portal. Will Alabama get some good news from that side of things? We'll talk about it starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sport.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after hours.
Better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather unseasonably mild today. Occasionally cloudy through tonight. Maybe a shower in spots tonight. The high today 69. The low tonight 56. Tomorrow mostly cloudy and mild. A chance of showers. The high close to 70. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 58 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:57. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and that's going to wrap it up for hour number one. Our thanks to Rodney Orr for joining us. Hour number two coming up. We'll have plenty of time for phone calls. We're also going to hear from Nate Oates Alabama head men's basketball coach, and we'll visit with Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Another hour is on the way. This hour has been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. The second hour is coming up.
$500 for the best Christmas light display in West Alabama. To enter, upload your photos to Tide109.com. Merry Christmas from your friends at Taco Casa and Tide 100.9.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Steve DeSager.
The Green Bay Packers won at Seattle Sunday night, 30-13. Jordan Love, 2 touchdown passes to Romeo Doubs. Minnesota, with this result, clinched a playoff spot. Pittsburgh clinched a playoff berth after a couple others lost. Pittsburgh lost its game at Philadelphia, 27-13. The Eagles have won 10 straight. Buffalo won at Detroit, 48-42. Josh Allen, 362 yards passing and 4 total touchdowns. Victories for Denver and Tampa Bay, for Arizona and Kansas City, which won at Cleveland 21-7. Houston over Miami 20-12. The Texans have clinched the AFC South. Notre Dame gave coach Marcus Freeman a contract extension. In the NBA, Dallas won at Golden State 143-133 on 3-pointers combined. The teams were 48 for 95, a record for made threes. The Lakers won the late game over Memphis 116-110, 40 points for Anthony Davis.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. For Monday, December 16th, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is manning the controls and taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. We got another good hour on tap. Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. We're going to hear from Nate Oates. And right now we're going to take a phone call as Tom is back with us. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary. I hope I'm not violating any rules by calling twice, but I didn't. I wanted to kind of get out of the way. I knew you had people behind me on the other call. I want to talk to you about, did you watch the Buffalo-Detroit game yesterday?
I watched a good portion of it. I was flipping back between that one and the Eagles and who were the Eagles playing? Mine just went blank.
Steelers.
Yeah, Eagles and Steelers. But I caught a good portion of it, yeah.
You know, I did the same thing, but, I made an observation. I want to get your take on it. Josh Allen is having a MVP year. I don't care what anybody says. And I think he's playing better than Mahomes and by a hair, not much, but playing pretty darn good. And Jalen Hurts is playing outstanding as well. But, I saw Josh Allen yesterday and him running the ball, Gary, and I thought, I see Jalen Milroe being able to do some of the same things to the same level of effectiveness that Josh Allen does in the run game in the NFL. He's that type. He's also that type of player. Do you agree with that take?
Yeah, first, Josh Allen is the favorite for the MVP, and I would be shocked if he doesn't win it. He would have to fall off substantially not to win it. He is having a much better year, in my opinion, than Mahomes. I shouldn't say much better year, but a better year. And I think he's going to win the MVP. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is a factor, too. I guess Lamar Jackson is still lurking, but to me, Josh Allen is going to be the MVP. I think he's had his best season, and the Bills are playing great. Yeah, I mean, you just remember a couple of years ago, Jalen Hurts was a prime contender for the MVP and took the team to the Super Bowl. And I'm with you. I think he's a dynamic player. And yesterday, he had 290 yards passing and a couple touchdowns. I think he, as far as a quarterback, is putting up rushing touchdowns at a higher rate than just about any quarterback that we've ever seen. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the tush push when they get down on the goal line, but Yeah, Jalen's a terrific player. And the one thing about Jalen Hurts that goes back to when I covered him in college, just like last week with a little dust up with A.J. Brown with not getting the ball, is Jalen Hurts wants to win. I've never seen a guy that's any more focused on the bottom line than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is all about business. Jalen Hurts is about winning the game. Whatever it takes to win the game, that's what the guy wants to do. And I think that's why Nick Saban loved him as much as he did. I think that Jalen Hurts kind of epitomized the process, epitomized what Nick Saban wanted out of a quarterback. And, Alabama was blessed to have had Jalen and Tua at the same time. And, it caused some issues. But Jalen Hurts is a winner. Jalen Hurts is focused on the end result. And I'm with you. I think he's a marvelous player.
Jalen Milroe and some of the runs that he made this year were spectacular for Alabama, and compared them to, I was comparing them to what Josh Allen does at times. But I wanted to run this by.
Oh, were you talking about Jalen Milroe instead of Jalen Hurts?
Well, really all three.
Well, now let me get to Jalen Milroe, because I thought you were talking about Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is obviously a proven commodity in the NFL. I thought you were about Hurts. Milroe has the potential, yes, to be a dynamic quarterback in the NFL. He's got to get more consistent on his passing, as most quarterbacks are working at. But as a runner, as big and strong and fast as Jalen Milroe is, he could be the best running quarterback in the NFL very, very quickly if he, gets an opportunity. Because from that part of his game is on par with any quarterback in the NFL. He could go in there and be a dynamic runner. The question with him is, how quickly will he learn the nuances of the passing game and become, a better passer. But as far as a runner, Jalen Milroe is a next level quarterback as far as a runner. There's no way around it.
Time out. This is what I wanted you to address. I get all that other stuff. That history lesson, I don't need that. But I made this statement to some people, and I want to get your take on it. Now, don't give me the history of everybody that ever played in the NFL.
Well, ask the question.
My comparison is that Jalen Milroe, and when you compare Jalen Hurts at the same time in their career, Jalen Milroe is ahead of where Jalen Hurts was at this time at Alabama.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think Jalen Milroe is a really fine player. You asked me to answer the question, I'm going to answer it. I would take Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts' ability to carry out what the coaches wanted him to do, and his ability to win games and do whatever was asked, I would take him at this point over in their same point in their career. I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is not a good player, but I would take Jalen Hurts. I just think Jalen Hurts is a special football player, and I always have. Back when people were saying he wouldn't be drafted, you remember, I stuck to my guns. A lot of people said he wouldn't even be drafted. He never sniffed the NFL. I said not only will he be drafted, he'll be a starting quarterback, and he'll have a chance to be a star. And he has been. So I would take Jalen Hurts over Jalen Milroe, but I think Jalen Milroe is a really good player.
But I was trying to ask you at the same point in time in college.
I would take Jalen Hurts at the same point in time over Jalen Milroe. I just answered it. Well, that's your opinion. I mean, you got your opinion, I got my opinion. You asked me for my opinion, I gave it to you. So you like it when I give the opinion that matches yours up, but you don't like it if I disagree with you. I see how this works.
I love to argue. Don't worry about that. I appreciate you letting me state mine, but I do think that though, and but I mean, the bottom line, you nailed it. The bottom line is Jalen Hurts is about winning. What do I need to do to win?
That's all he's about. That's all he's about. That's all he's ever been about. He has always put the bottom line of winning the game over stats or over who gets the football or who doesn't get the football. He is a tough-minded individual. He will step on toes if he needs to. He's all about winning the game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. 10:09 here on the Gary Harris Show. Chase, what do you think about Tom there? He said I don't answer the question. Well, you got to ask the question, right?
Well, good morning to both of you guys. We're gonna keep rolling with it. We're gonna continue to talk about Alabama sports and the Gary Harris Show. It's all good.
Yeah, and
here.
first of all, too, Chase, when you say Jalen and you're talking about Alabama quarterbacks, you need to specify if it's Jalen Milroe or Jalen Hurts, because they both recently played. Hurts recently played, and Milroe's there now. But no, he brings up some good points. I think, you weren't here, Chase, but I caught a lot of flack when I was saying that Jalen Hurts was going to play in the NFL and not only play in the NFL, but be a star in the NFL. And boy, there was people after me, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I took a lot of heat, and we had some people that I think were knowledgeable people on football, just saying, Jalen Hurts had no chance to be an NFL quarterback. And I just was always thinking, what am I seeing that you're not seeing? I mean, I see a guy that can run. I see a guy that's, out of all the quarterbacks that have come through here, he's still the only one under Nick Saban that started as a true freshman. He didn't start the USC game, but he came in that year and finished it, and he started every other game that season and came within, seconds of a perfect 15-0 record as a true freshman quarterback. None of the other quarterbacks that came through under Nick Saban started as a freshman. He's the only one. But a lot of people didn't see it that way, and they saw his flaws more than they saw his attributes. Now, as far as Jalen Milroe is concerned, I think Jalen Milroe is going to play in the NFL too. I'll tell you right now. I think Jalen Milroe is going to play in the NFL. I don't think he'll have quite the level of early success that Jalen Hurts had. Jalen Hurts was a starter in his second season, Chase. And I'm not sure that that'll be the case for Jalen Milroe, but I definitely think he's going to play in the NFL. All right, let's jump back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Philip. Hey, Philip, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Gary, I wonder when we're going to start seeing some stories involving portaling here in the future, where a kid wants to portal and he puts his name in, and then in the midst of all that, the administration from the school that he's portaling from reaches out to him and says, "Hey, just want to remind you that you signed an agreement with us back when you signed your letter of intent, that if you have an NIL agreement, that if you decide to portal, we're gonna backtrack and withhold or retrieve X amount of dollars from you." That's got to be the thing that turns this portaling around, and I don't know.
Well, you're talking about separate issues. Right now, there isn't anything that holds these players. You're talking about are we going to get into contracts? Are we going to get into them becoming employees? Because right now, legally, there's nothing. So what that you said they could have $1 million? There's still nothing legally binds them to your school. The portal rules trump all of that. So is that where we're headed? Maybe. That's what I've been saying, that there needs to be ultimately you're right. There needs to be protection for the school. There needs to be a contract that you sign, that there are rules that you have to go by in regard to the money, in regard to what your responsibility is to that school. But right now, the system doesn't allow that. The system is just totally open market, free market, period. So, Philip, I don't know. I mean, I would like to see something put in place where they basically become employees. I mean, I think that's where this has to go. But as of right now, there is just absolutely nothing. I mean, a guy can go in the portal and go to one school, and before he ever plays a snap, he can be back in the portal again. I mean, that's so. I agree with you on your premise of what you're talking about, but right now there's no, even these, if they have an agreement with the school for how much money they're going to get, that's between the player and the people that are paying him the money. There's still nothing legally binding him. Now, I would assume that most of these schools Philip, wouldn't you assume that once you go in the portal, they're going to quit giving you the money? But if they've already given it to you, if they're stupid enough to give it to you up front, and you leave, I don't think you have to give it back to them. Do you?
I don't know how it works. I'll be honest with you.
No, I don't think there's any contracts involved. I mean, I think if you say, hey, we're going to give you $1 million to come play for us, and you give them $1 million up front, and then the guy leaves, he's not going to say, well, I'm giving you your money back. So you better be setting up some type of payment plan where that's on the people that gave him the money. So right now there are no rules, man. You know what I'm saying? There are no rules. The only rule is that this is when you can go in the portal, and this is when you can't.
Yeah. So they can establish a payment plan, right?
Yeah, I would think that that's what they would start doing. I mean, as far as just how you pay them is structured is up to you and the player's representative and the school. So yeah, I would assume once you leave, they're going to cut off those payments. But what they've paid you to that point, I don't see any way for you to recoup it.
Okay, yeah. Well, if they can set up, you got to set up a payment plan. That's the only way to do it. Now, this portal.
Yeah, I mean, you pay them as long as they're here. But yeah, you don't want to keep paying a player once he's not here. So, but like I said, I have read some horror stories where people that pay this money have school signed a kid and they've given him a bulk sum of money right up front. Well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but the crazy, Philip. It's only going to get weirder too. And like I said, I think at some point in time, maybe somebody will just be able to say enough's enough and get something enacted. But as of right now, it's we're operating under the system that we're operating on, and it's unlimited free agency without any repercussions. You want to leave, you leave. So that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's getting tough to sink your teeth into it now. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's getting hard to be a fan, man. You put so much into recruiting these guys, and then you recruit inside them. I mean, look at Auburn. They had 4 scholarship quarterbacks this past season. All 4 of them are gone. They don't have a single quarterback coming back. Now they're bringing in Jackson Arnold, and they've signed Deuce Knight, but their whole quarterback room is gone. And you remember they were all about Hank Brown and Walker White and Garner. Every one of those guys is gone. And then they lost, obviously they lost the starter to graduation. So they're going to have a brand new, right now they got 2 quarterbacks. They're probably going to have to go in the portal and get another one. You can't go through the season with 2 scholarship quarterbacks. Yeah. So it's crazy. Hey, I got to run. Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. All right, Cowboy and Ragged Glory, you guys hold tight. We'll get to you in the next segment. We're due to hit the break. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa is ready when you're ready for the Y. And, man, I love that place. I told you that. I was in there on Friday, I think, getting a workout in. And anyway, great place to work out, great community of people. Right now is a terrific time to join. Go ahead and get a jump start on January. We've still got about half of this month to go. So you can get some quality workouts in before you hit the new year.
You 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather unseasonably mild today, occasionally cloudy through tonight. Maybe a shower in spots tonight. The high today 69, the low tonight 56. Tomorrow mostly cloudy and mild, a chance of showers, the high close to 70. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 58 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 1021, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. More phone calls to get to. Cowboy is on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Good morning, Cowboy.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing great.
You ever had a morning where you woke up and I guess you slept wrong on your shoulder or neck? You feel like you need a good popping or a chiropractor or something?
Yeah, unfortunately I have, and that's why I see Dr. Britt Tidwell on a regular basis for adjustments. My chiropractor, because as you get older, those funny sleeping blows can seem to hit you a little bit more. But, yeah, I have. So you had one last night, huh?
Yeah, I hadn't had one of these in a while. It's kind of, oh, well, whatever. I'll get over it, I guess. Hey, boy, that was some good NFL by Alabama guys yesterday. Boy, Josh,
wasn't it though?
My goodness, what are the Las Vegas, L.A. Raiders, Oakland Raiders? When are they ever going to get somebody in there who can run a football team? My goodness.
Well, they had Josh Jacobs. I mean, they had one of the better running backs in the league.
Oh, I know.
And
just let him.
and they let him go. And
clown show.
You know, and now they don't. And they're a bad team with a bad organization and really a very unproven head coach. That was another one of these situations where Antonio Pierce was, you know, an assistant on that staff, and everybody liked him. The players liked him. So Mark Davis said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and make him the head coach," and it's just been a disaster. I can't see. I can't see that any way that he's going to be back. I mean, when you look at that team, and they play the Falcons tonight. Now they may very well beat the Falcons because the Falcons are back falconing again.
Falcons. I'm 11-3 going into tonight. Come on, Atlanta and Minnesota. I finished 13-3 this week.
That's good picking right there. But I tell you, the Falcons are another one that just. I mean, Arthur Blank has a lot of money. He wants to win. We know how good he is to the city of Atlanta. I mean, what he's done with his concessions there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where you can get a lot of food for under $20 is awesome. But why? Again, just my opinion. And you know, D. Orlando Ledbetter and I, you know, had this discussion. I think he should have hired Bill Belichick. I'm sorry. I just think, you know, Raheem Morris failed once as a head coach, so he went out to Los Angeles as the Rams, and supposedly he got, you know, he found how to be a good head coach. I'm not buying it, but we'll see. But now I know this: they're trailing the Bucs now, and the Bucs, even though the Falcons beat them twice, the Buccaneers are a better football team than the Atlanta Falcons. I expect them to win the division. I expect Atlanta to be sitting home again, Cowboy.
Yeah, man, I made the fatal mistake and thought the bookies knew something yesterday and picked Carolina over Dallas, and they just looked like.
Yeah, it was a sucker game a little bit because the Panthers had played three really good teams back to back right down to the wire. You know, they nearly beat the Chiefs, they nearly beat the Eagles, and then they nearly beat somebody else. But they didn't win any of those games. And then Dallas comes in, all of a sudden, and Carolina's favored. And Dallas, for whatever reason, they're good on the road. I mean, they're horrible at home, but they're good on the road. And that was one of those where I'm not a gambler. As you know, I talk about it and like to have fun with it. I don't bet. But if I had been a gambler, I would have taken the Cowboys yesterday. I kind of sniffed that one out a little bit. I was pulling for Carolina. And I thought Bryce played pretty well again. I mean, that's just a bad team around him. You know what I mean?
Pulling for Bryce, and maybe after the way Dallas lost on Monday night, they'd go up there and just not care, but they did, I guess. Well, you know, I heard Tom talking about Jalen Hurts and Jalen Milroe. I can kind of see what Tom's talking about, but I think Jalen Hurts has more of a killer instinct than Jalen.
No, I can see exactly what he's talking about, and it's a fair comparison. As players, I'm with you. I'm just saying that I think at this, you know, people forget, too, that Jalen transferred to Oklahoma and put together a incredible year. Runner-up Heisman Trophy year to Joe Burrow. I'm just saying I think that at this point, Jalen Hurts was ahead of Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe is going to play in the NFL, and I think he's got a chance to have a fine career. You remember this. You and I went back and forth on it. You know, I never had any doubt about Jalen Hurts going to play in the NFL. In fact, you argue with me about Jalen Hurts. You argued with me a lot. You said, "Oh, Gary, he won't play in the NFL."
A.J. Brown and Devontae, you know, give him some weapons like Bryce Young's got. I mean, you see what he does. You know, he's got some arsenal. Bryce Young's got nothing. But, you know.
Well, no, it's a big part of it. There's no doubt about it. I just got through saying Carolina's a terrible team. Obviously, the Eagles are a good team. But Jalen Hurts is the quarterback, and he makes the engine run. And, you know, people that don't like Jalen Hurts are always going to find a way to. Now you're going to play well. He's on a good team. Well, aren't most good quarterbacks that have success on good teams? You know, it's hard to be successful in that league and get recognition as a quarterback if you're on a bad team, dude. It's just hard. I mean, the guys. Like I said, I'll let his record speak for itself. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to argue about Jalen Hurts anymore. If you still don't think he can play in the NFL, then I don't know what to tell you.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But he does have good players around him. You're doggone right he does, and that's why they're a serious Super Bowl contender and have won 10 games in a row. So I put the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, and the Bills right now as the 4 top teams in the league. Although I will say this: the Lions are so banged up that scares me a little bit, and I think the Packers are a team to watch too. The Packers are a real well-rounded team, and you can't discount the Ravens. Although the Ravens, Derrick Henry only got 14 carries again yesterday. Did you realize that?
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs had 14 carries in the first half.
Those are two. The Ravens have Hall of Fame guys, Henry and the quarterback for the Ravens. Heck, I can't think of his name right now.
Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson. They're Hall of Fame guys. But I'm going to tell you, Gary, I don't mind stepping out in the deep water. Probably everybody knows that. I'm going to tell you, the Chiefs are going to get beat before they play Buffalo.
Well, they very well could. Listen, I give that team a lot of credit. But, boy, they've kind of pieced it together this year. Now, of course, Mahomes got dinged up yesterday, so he may miss a couple of games potentially. So we'll see. Hey, I got to get one more caller in, Cowboy, before I hit the break. Appreciate you, man. Let's get to Ragged Glory before we have to hit the break. Hey, Ragged Glory.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm going to make this short and sweet. I watched Jalen Hurts win the championship game against Clemson and Trevor Lawrence. The only reason that game was lost was because the defense laid down. I'm going to tell you right now, in comparison, I love Jalen Milroe. He's my quarterback, okay? I'm tied through and through in Crimson. But I'm going to have to back you up with saying that Jalen Hurts is where he is because of who he is, and he is the superior quarterback.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think Milroe has a chance still to play himself into being a really good NFL quarterback, but at the same point in their careers, coming out of college, I would take Jalen Hurts over Jalen Milroe. But I think Milroe's got a chance to be really good. But there is a maturity. There was a maturity about Jalen Hurts in college. There was a focus. There was a singleness of purpose, and just very, very rare to find. And the guy, like I said before, the guy's a winner. I mean, he just knows how to win games. And that's just the reality of it.
Here's my fear, and I'll let you go. What's going to happen, just like Bryce, you're going to get drafted to a team that is like, okay, you're going to be our savior. But is the team you're being drafted to going to build something around you?
That's a great question. I mean, listen, you want the problem with being the number 1 overall pick like Bryce Young was is that you're probably going to be with a bad team. That's just the reality of it. And you're right, Ragged Glory. It helps you to be with good players. And, I hope that the Panthers can get better players around Bryce. But I like what I'm seeing from Bryce. Heck, yesterday I like what I saw from Mac Jones. I thought he went out and competed well for the Jaguars against the Jets. So, and obviously Tua has had a fabulous year since coming back until yesterday. Now, he did not play well yesterday against the Texans, but yeah. So, but all those guys, I want to see all those guys do well. I want to see Tua.
I love my 49ers, and man, they're just falling apart. But I love every game I'm watching with any of our players, offense and defense. I root for them. That's all there is.
Yeah, it makes it fun. Hey, thank you, Ragged Glory. I got to run. Good to talk to you. It's 10:31 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to come back with Casey Smith on golf. Hey, lunch will be here before you know it. Like I've talked about before, I got a lot of cool lunch places that I'm involved with, and one of them is Innisfree with that Meat and 3, the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. You can't beat it, man. They got plenty of meat choices every day, plenty of vegetable choices, plus cobbler counts as one of your sides. They have a homemade cobbler every day of the week. And they also have a couple specials each week.
Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:35 here on the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for Casey Smith on golf. And always good to welcome in Casey. We've been busy this morning. We have not. We've not let up. If we have an opportunity to get some Nados audio on in the final segment, we will. But had a ton of phone calls. Casey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gary. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I've been active this morning on the show. Let's talk about the Ryder Cup announcement that they were already getting a $200,000 stipend to give to charity, but now. Well, I think they were already, I don't know how much they were getting. They were already getting some money for charity. I think it was $200,000. But now the announcement that they're going to get $500,000, $300,000, I think goes to charity. $200,000 is for them, and they can use it how they want. I like the money going to charity. I thought that was cool. And I think Keegan Bradley's already said that, all his money was going to go to charity anyway. I like the idea that the players weren't playing for any money. I just think, can we keep something sacred in this world that isn't motivated by money? And it's just the idea now, to me, it bothers me that they're getting this stipend when it's not needed for them. Why not just keep it all for charity? What's behind this?
I agree with you, Gary. I agree with you 100%. I thought there was, one event you probably could keep sacred, either charity or nothing, just one, because what you're playing for your country. You do earn a lot over the course of the year. The European team is not going to be getting paid any money. There's a lot of ways they could do this. And I know it's, everyone deserves to get paid for their work, but and now what's the bad part about it is the PGA Tour is passing the cost on to the fan. Ticket prices have gone up 80%, 70%.
Jeez. Well, there you go. The poor fan gets hit again.
Yeah, the fan gets hit again, and then not to mention all the fees that go on to it. So, yeah, I wish some of the unfortunately, I think the players are all behind it, right? Or a lot of them. And some of the ones that are making the decisions, because ultimately a lot of those guys making decisions are the ones that were not getting paid, didn't get paid to go to live. Now, they've earned a lot more money from the restructuring of the PGA Tour. Some of them have equity in it, some of them don't, or most of all of them do. So, I think it's a bad look. I agree with you.
All right, let's talk about PGA Tour qualifying. Lanto Griffin, who everything I read about him is a very popular player. He was the medalist, so he's moving on. None of the Alabama guys, I think, from what I've been able to read, Casey, you correct me if I'm wrong, did enough to really change their status through qualifying school. So whatever the status they had going into that is what they're going to have coming out. Am I correct?
Robbie Shelton finished tied for 36, and so the top 5 in ties earn a PGA Tour card, and the next 40 in ties earn a Korn Ferry Tour card. And so he guaranteed 12 starts on the Korn Ferry Tour. If he had finished further back, his status would have been even less. And Will Cannon, also from UAB, finished top 43. He'll be in that next 40. The next 20 after them, we didn't have anybody in there. They would be going to the PGA Tour of the Americas in Canada for status. I did find it very interesting. There's a golf pro over here from Atlanta-based. His name's Jin Chung. He was crying in an interview yesterday, all overcoming the emotion. He had, truly just a teaching pro. He had tried 12 times to make it through Q School, and he finished 8th. So he never had status on any tour before. He won a couple of big events over here and, just stayed at it, chopped wood. And here he is now on his 12th try having status on the Korn Ferry Tour. And then Alistair Doherty, he's a story that has been made famous from the Barstool ranks. He was leading yesterday, and that'll tell you how nerve-wracking it is. He was leading yesterday going into, and he finished one shot out. He finished seventh because it was 5 and ties over 6. So for getting his PGA Tour card. Now, he got Korn Ferry's tour status. So anyway, fascinating story that I was paying attention to there.
All right, good update. I did not even know anything about the Grant Thornton Invitational. I'm going to be quite honest with you, until I happened to see that Nick Dunlap was playing with some guy named Ruffles, and they finished at -11, tied for 16th. But what shocked me was in the first round they had a 65, in the third round they had a 64, in the second round they shot 76. What format was that? And how do you shoot 76 in a team event?
Yeah, so that's alternate shot, and that's easily done if your partner's hitting it sideways because you're put in some bad positions. But yeah, more of a hit and giggle event. They're trying to test these events to see what they look like because I'm hearing that potentially at the Olympics you're going to have a mixed team format, and so I don't want to just roll it out somewhere like that without having some more of this. And then, next is the parent-child tournament that's coming up. We'll have some people playing in that. And then really segues into that simulator league and the season in Maui. Simulator league, they're getting pretty serious about that. That was something I was going to see, wait and see is how this was going to go. Well, now that building and facility, SoFi Stadium, is stood up in Palm Beach, and I'm seeing tons of video and pictures. I saw Justin Thomas and they're practicing. They're all practicing. They're going to take this a lot more serious than I thought, which I'm glad to hear because it'll give us some really cool viewing opportunities. And Tiger Woods is playing. And, there's a lot of people playing. And I would think after year one, you're going to see more of those live guys, some of those live guys play. And they may have their own team or whatever. But ESPN signed on, so they're, and they're obviously going to be incentivized, and there's going to be ways to earn money because that's ultimately what started this convo of you and I. What drives those guys, it seems, the most.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the silly season events, one that I could take or leave most years. We're playing with NFL quarterbacks and all that. I don't really care about seeing that. I mean, but the match suddenly has been ramped up, in my opinion. And that's because you've got Scheffler and McIlroy, two of the biggest names on the PGA Tour, against DeChambeau and Koepka, two of the biggest names on the LIV Tour. And we know that this is, for fun to some degree, but I sense the competition will really be ramped up because of the LIV versus PGA Tour aspect of this.
I don't disagree. I think made for fans, it's perfect. It's going to be serious when those guys, they usually just show up and play in those. They're already on site, so they're getting warmed up. I saw Bryson DeChambeau was out there practicing yesterday. Brooks has been out there over the weekend. I heard Rory had made 2 stops in. So, yeah, I think there's some pride in there that, they want to beat each other. And you got really 4 superstar studs playing a 6-6-6 format. It should be very entertaining. This is actually the first match that I was looking forward to Tiger and Phil. Now I'm really looking forward to this. And it's going to be cold, and it's going to be under the lights. All 18 holes are going to be under the lights. They're going to be making it to like hole 5 when the sun goes down. So it really should be a made-for-TV event. But it can get really cold in Las Vegas, especially when the sun goes down.
Wow. Well, that's going to be interesting. That's tomorrow night at Shadow Creek Golf Club, the match on TNT, TBS, and True TV at 5 o'clock Central Time. So I'll be working, but I think I'm going to record that one. Casey, who do you like? Who do you think will win?
I think that I can't bet against Scotty Scheffler right now. Now Bryson's right in more of these hit and giggle events, but how can you bet against Scotty Scheffler, right? It's just
I can't. after what I watched him do last week at the Hero World Challenge, I can't. I seriously,
partner,
Casey.
Right? And Rory's his partner, and he drives it so well. Like
Yeah, I could see Scheffler, even with a limited, somewhat cherry picked schedule because of his status. I could see the guy winning 10 events this year in 2025. I could see him winning 10 times. Could you?
The way that he's playing, I just don't disagree. Right? I think he is so good that it's really hard to fathom what he's doing right now. And it's a level of like Tiger Woods 2000 was that magical year everybody talks about. He's there. And
yeah, he is.
He's always won in his life. If you go back to junior golf all the way through and not scared to win in droves, I really think just we're watching something right here in front of our eyes that is crazy special. I'm glad that we're along for the ride of this. I really think that he's got. I mean, what's going to stop him? Those guys coming back if they ever get the LIV PGA Tour worked out, and I think they're really close. So that's really, really close. I hear that will provide more competition for sure. This coming year, they're not going to be there, and no one else has provided any competition to him. He's just playing robotic golf.
Yeah, watching that final round of the Hero, and Justin Thomas is playing well. Justin Thomas is back to be, I think, being Justin Thomas, but you could just see the pressure on the other player, in this case, JT, when you're playing with a guy. I mean, you string together a few good holes or you hit it close, you got to make it. I mean, you can't, to keep up with this guy, you can't just be good. I mean, he's something else. All right, you mentioned the LIV. I do want to ask you this. Is there a chance, I had read this, that I'm with you, I think eventually they're going to get together, but it looks like this year still maybe 25 and still maybe a separate year. They had talked about, especially with the match, there being some type of competition, a Ryder Cup type of competition put together for LIV versus the PGA Tour. Any truth to that rumor?
That I don't think is going to happen. Now, it may happen if they get them all back together, but I don't think that's going to happen because they're trying to get this together and make it more of a whole one. I do think they're getting really close for the PIF buying 6% of LIV. I don't think the Ryder Cup thing probably happens unless they're trying to fill holes and they think it's going to be something that generates some, if they were to keep LIV as a sidecar and not really blend them back in and they want to try to get something out of that coverage, then you might see it. But I think they're going to try to get them back in and play and really juice up these events that need more eyeballs.
Yeah. All right, Casey, I think I've tried to cover pretty much everything. Is there anything, a lot of times you'll have something on your plate that I don't bring up. Anything else that you want to touch on?
I wanted to give a little kudos to, knowing that we're in a little bit of a slower time. I want to give kudos to what Alabama basketball is doing. I mean, I was reading some of this. Number 2 strength of schedule, number 5 scoring offense, and there were 4 of 364 teams with 5 quad plus 2 wins. Alabama and Auburn are 2 of them, A&M and Memphis. And only 1 team missed the field last year with 10 of those wins. Now, they're halfway there. We're not even into the meat of the season. Really excited about what's going on there at Alabama basketball. Losing that recruit might hurt a little, but a $5 million bag was not there on the table, and there'll be many more to get.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Gary. Have a great one.
All right. Appreciate you. All right. It's 10:48. What we're going to do is take a time out here and come back and try to play a little bit of Nate Oates, at least his opening comments from that win over the Creighton Blue Jays on Saturday night. So we'll do that before we wrap it up here on the Gary Harris Show.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama Creighton. We'll do that with Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Martin Houston. We'll talk to Barrett Salee. We'll talk about the transfer portal. Will Alabama get some good news from that side of things? We'll talk about it starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sport.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
At Flavas, this Seize the Deal offer will be available this Friday morning starting at 8. For more details about this incredible offer, log on to Tide109.com and click Seize the Deal.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama
9 will award $500 for the best Christmas light display in West Alabama. To enter, upload your photos to Tide109.com. Merry Christmas from your friends at Taco Casa and Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather unseasonably mild today, occasionally cloudy through tonight. Maybe a shower in spots tonight. The high today 69, the low tonight 56. Tomorrow mostly cloudy and mild, a chance of showers, the high close to 70. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 57 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:52. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and I've got to pass along some very sad news. I have not mentioned it yet, but I want to mention it. Chet Williams, the chaplain for Auburn football for many, many years, passed away tragically over the weekend, and I just have talked to a lot of people I know a lot of people that know him, and regardless of your sports affiliation, this is just absolutely terrible news. And we certainly offer our prayers and condolences to his friends, his family, to Auburn University, and Chet Williams passing away over the weekend. All right, we're going to close out the show with at least the opening comments. We got 3 or 4 minutes here. Here's Nate Oates Saturday night following the Tide's victory over the Creighton Blue Jays.
You guys don't have to say with the coach, so raise your hands.
Good win. It's a good team. They're going to win a lot of games in the Big East. And, it wasn't necessarily prettiest game at times, but I thought our guys resilient. We built the lead in the first half. You got to give Creighton a ton of credit. They kept hammering away. I think they finished the first half on a 21-10 run, so we didn't close like we needed to. But they're good. Kalkbrenner's one of the better bigs in the country. I mean, he's big. He's got size. You got to pay attention to him in a post. I thought we had a decent plan that we executed for the most part. He still ended up with 18 points. Our pick and roll defense wasn't great. They exposed it there in the second half. We were trying to close the game. We gave up way too many threes. And, Ashworth's one of the better guards in the country, and we fell asleep on some stuff with him. Thought for large parts of the game we were good defensively, and then they're so explosive that in short stints you fall asleep and they make you pay. They had a 4-point play and multiple threes. Jackson McAndrew, we didn't get that covered correctly. So, good win, but a lot to build on. Got 3 more games before conference play, and I think this will be a win that goes a long ways come March, which is why we schedule games like this. So appreciate them coming, scheduling the series. I think it's good for both programs, and we get to learn a little bit from it. I think Youngblood played he's supposed to be about 15, 16 minutes. He played his 16 minutes and kind of knocking the rust off. It's good to see him hit the 1-3. I think he'll shoot a little bit better than he did tonight once he kind of gets in flow and in rhythm a little bit more. But it's good to see him out there contributing to the win tonight.
And just asked LeBaron about his defensive intensity in the second half there. I think he was up in Ashworth a lot, and I felt like it got the building up a little. Just what does he give you from a defensive standpoint, and do you feel like that edge is necessary for this team to continue to get better?
Yeah, no, he's a great defender. He's long, he's athletic, he's tough, he's competitive. I thought him and Darian Reed both did a good job. Now Ashworth's one of those guys, you do a great job 95% of the time. The 5% of the time you screw up, all of a sudden he's got 20 points on you. Like, he doesn't miss free throws. He doesn't miss too many open shots. So, I did think those guys were good, but we got to, again, when you're relying on freshmen as much as we are right now, sometimes, we only had 3 guys in double figures scoring. 2 of them were freshmen, Darian and LeBaron. they're going to make some mistakes on the defensive end, and you just got to keep teaching them and getting better. But I think their intensity, their effort, their want to is at a really high level, and that goes a long ways. So proud of both those guys tonight.
All right, great stuff there from Nate Oates, at least a sampling of what he had to say. And he's right about LeBaron Philon and Ashworth going at it. They went at it hard. And listen, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Again, tragic news. Chet Williams, Auburn team chaplain, drowning on Sunday down at Lake Martin when he fell into the lake trying to get into his boat after hoping to have dinner at a restaurant that was closed. And one other thing I didn't mention, of course, was the Heisman Trophy. And it's very, very interesting that the SEC did not have a single player in the top 10, which is just surprising. But Travis Hunter, no complaints here. Travis Hunter deserved the Heisman Trophy. He played both ways at a high level, both wide receiver and quarterback. And Colorado's Travis Hunter is the Heisman Trophy winner. All right, that's going to do it for the Gary Harris Show for this Monday. Thanks to Chase Brumfeld for his great work as always. Thanks to you for listening. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next, and I will talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m. on the Gary Harris Show. Have a great Monday, everybody.
Thank you for listening